right, let's delve into a world where the very air isn't just for breathing, but pulses with immense ancient power. Today we're taking a deep dive into the Aurelda Chronicles, a series just brimming with Mesoamerican myth, profound spiritual practices, and some really deeply personal journeys. We've gone through a fascinating collection of excerpts, and our mission today is to distill what makes this narrative so compelling and, so relevant, especially now.
Yeah, what's truly powerful here, I think, is how this source material invites us to explore not just like a fictional universe, but the very essence of balance, identity, and healing within it. And beyond that, it really stands as this shining example of how stories, especially within the realm of LGBTQ plus fantasy, can become these profound sanctuaries for readers, offering validation, healing, and a path to authentic self-discovery. It's more than just escapism.
Exactly. Think of this deep dive as maybe your shortcut to becoming truly well-informed about a narrative that really pushes the boundaries of fantasy. It invites us into a world that feels both ancient and somehow incredibly relevant to our modern search for belonging, for seeing ourselves reflected. Get ready for some surprising insights and moments that will truly make you feel like you've stepped into another reality, and hopefully help you understand why stories that honor your full self, your whole identity, can be so incredibly transformative. The foundations of Aurelda, a world of resonance and ancient roots. So to begin our exploration, let's start with the absolute core of this world, the Lumina. What exactly is this mysterious force, and why is it so utterly central to everything in Aurelda?
Right. The Lumina, it isn't just some, magical element you find lying around. It's described as the pulse of life itself, literally the lifeblood of Aurelda. It's this sacred, unseen energy that flows through all living things, from the grandest ceiba trees, which are hugely important, down to the intricate mycelium network hidden beneath the earth.
Like the fungal network, wow.
Exactly. So it's intrinsically tied to existence itself, carrying the power to heal and to unite. And what's really crucial to grasp, I think, is that the Lumina isn't a resource to be simply used or commanded like, typical fantasy magic systems often portray. It's a force you have to align with, respect deeply, and keep in this delicate balance.
Okay, so it's more relationship than resource.
Precisely. Its very hum is described as palpable, like a steady rhythm vibrating beneath the surface of the land, even within bustling cities like Solara. It really redefines power, doesn't it? Presenting it as a relationship to be nurtured and not just a force to be controlled.
That sounds incredibly foundational, and I understand it has a very tangible connection to the iconic ceiba trees, correct? You mentioned their importance.
Absolutely, yes. The ceiba trees are not just grand scenery, they're central to the Lumina's flow, hugely significant. They're often found in these sacred groves, and the descriptions are amazing. They're massive roots twisting like the veins of the world itself. And they don't just exist, they glow faintly with the Lumina's resonance. They serve as both sanctuaries, places of peace and connection, and powerful conduits for this life-giving energy. In fact, one of the most significant pieces of technology we hear about, the resonance extractor, it's explicitly designed not to create energy, but to channel the energy flow of the ceiba trees and amplifies their resonance with the Lumina.
So it works with nature, not against it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This isn't merely a fantasy element thrown in for aesthetics. It embodies this profound reverence for nature and a deep understanding of the interconnectedness of all life. And, for a reader, especially perhaps one who may have felt fragmented or isolated in their own experience, maybe someone from the LGBTQ plus community looking for that connection, these trees and the Lumina offer this constant, tangible reminder of unity and belonging. It's like an echoing home within the story itself. A sanctuary.
With the Lumina as the planet's very lifeblood, it naturally raises the question, who are the stewards of this vital force? That brings us to the resonance keepers. What's their unique and seemingly crucial role in all of this?
The resonance keepers are really quite distinct from your typical fantasy guardians or wizards. They are described as guardians not of land, but of memory of the Lumina itself.
Guardians of memory.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Their central purpose is to maintain the balance of the Lumina, ensuring its natural flow remains intact. They work to prevent it from fracturing, from being manipulated, from being drained beyond repair. They are, in essence, living conduits of this universal harmony, sort of embodying its balance. Their role isn't really about wielding power in a combative sense, like fighting battles, but about listening, preserving, and restoring that harmony.
And our central character, Moan, he seems to have an exceptionally special connection to all of this. What makes him so unique in this role?
Moen is truly remarkable and central to why this story resonates so much, I think. His elder and mentor, Ahuten, reveals that Moen's energy is tied to the Lumina itself. He says, "It is both powerful and sacred, and it flows through you in ways few can understand." Now, what's particularly groundbreaking, especially for fantasy readers, and maybe specifically those in the LGBTQ plus community, is that Moen's fluid nature and even his sacred sexual energy are explicitly described as integral parts of this connection.
So his identity isn't separate from his power.
Not at all. It amplifies the balance he is meant to bring to Aurelda. This isn't some subplot or a tangential detail. It's absolutely foundational to his destiny. His mother, Ixquil, even had this vision where Chamal of the Light, described as a being of pure resonance, foretold Moen's vital role in maintaining harmony. This portrayal, of a central queer character whose very identity and intimate experiences are intrinsically linked to the spiritual well-being of the entire world, that's a powerful departure.
You don't see that often.
Right. It's a departure from historical representations where queer characters might be sidekicks or tragic figures or just absent. It offers this profound validation, showing that a queer identity isn't just accepted here, but is actually essential for the cosmic order. It's a core part of the sanctuary this story creates.
So his very essence, his being, is tied to the world's well-being. That puts an incredible weight on his shoulders, doesn't it?
It absolutely does, and it immediately raises an important question the story grapples with. What happens when such a vital, deeply personal connection faces disruption? There's this ancient prophecy from the revered god Ithanol, which long foretold a time when attempts to control the forces of nature would threaten to sever humanity's connection to the land and their spiritual roots.
A warning.
Stark warning, yeah. It says, if Aureldians fail to maintain their core values of love, peace, and harmony, their civilization will crumble. And this prophecy isn't just like a historical anecdote gathering dust. For Solora's leaders, it's a call to action in the present. And for someone like Moen, whose identity is so intrinsically tied to this balance, the stakes are not just high, they are profoundly personal. It echoes, I think, the real-world experiences of many LGBTQ plus individuals whose well-being is often tied to societal acceptance and harmony, right?
Absolutely. That connection feels very real. Now, one of the most striking things about Aurelda visually and culturally is its distinct flavor. It doesn't feel like the traditional European fantasy that dominates the genre so much. What kind of cultural touchstones are we seeing woven into this world?
This is where the world building truly shines, and you can feel it's a direct response to a growing hunger among readers, including many queer readers, for something different, something non-Eurocentric. The sources paint this vivid picture of Mesoamerican-inspired settings. You have jade-lit pyramids rising against the jungle, thatched rooftops dotting vibrant communities, and cobblestone streets bustling with life.
You could almost picture it.
Totally. And it's not just visual. We're immersed in the senses through descriptions of smells like roasted maize and honeyed cacao, the distinct aroma of copal smoke from ceremonies, and the taste of belché, which is a traditional fermented drink. Even the characters' names themselves, Ahotun, Ixcan, Balamkin, Moen, Ixquil, Zanal, and Pyrrhus Kinnick, they directly evoke Mesoamerican cultures. This is such a critical distinction from the often very Eurocentric fantasy tropes that have, historically dominated the genre.
It feels refreshing.
It offers this fresh, rich tapestry that resonates deeply with readers seeking more diverse and culturally specific worlds. And importantly, worlds that also embrace queer identities within those specific cultural settings. It addresses that hunger for non-Eurocentric queer worlds directly.
And it's clearly not just an aesthetic choice, is it? Like you said about the Lumina, it feels deeply embedded into the very fabric of the narrative.
Absolutely. The spiritual and mythological elements are not decorative. They are foundational to how this world works. We encounter concepts like a Nawal owl, which is Chimilmat, a spirit companion and guide. Gods like Ithanol and Mazheron are active forces, not distant deities. And places like the Shibalzul aren't just locations, but spiritual thresholds, places of significance. The integration of ceremonies, like the atonement ceremony held in the sacred Seba Grove, complete with specific protocols and the palpable sense of God's observing. It speaks to a deeply rooted spiritual tradition, one that permeates daily life and the grand narratives alike.
It feels lived in.
Exactly. This level of cultural authenticity is critical for the reader to truly feel immersed. It shows a powerful move away from homogeneous fantasy settings, opening up entirely new frameworks for magic, spirituality, and societal structures. And for readers who have yearned for stories that reflect more of the world's rich diversity, particularly with inclusive queer representation, Aurelda offers this profound sense of coming home. Coming home to a world that feels both fantastical and deeply real. It answers that question, why do settings and mythologies outside of Europe matter so much? Because they open up entirely new paradigms for magic, relationships, and societal structures that can feel incredibly validating and expansive, especially when queer lives are woven into that fabric from the start. 2. Seeds of discord. Ambition, conflicts, and the fracturing of reality.
Okay, so we had this world built on balance and connection. But it's often said that power invites conflict. And with an energy as fundamental as the Lumina, its misuse seems almost inevitable, right? How does this sacred lifeblood become a point of contention in Aurelda?
Right, and this immediately raises that important question about the corrupting nature of unchecked ambition. It's a classic theme, but given a unique spin here. We see King Pyrrhus of Solara, who was initially celebrated, becoming increasingly obsessed with the potential of the Lumina. Not its balance, but its potential for power. He commissions these elaborate devices, like the extractor, specifically to harness its energy, fundamentally disregarding the natural balance that the Lumina demands.
Ignoring the warnings.
Exactly. His own wife, Queen Itzam'Yeh, observes his escalating madness and his hunger for control. She expresses deep concern that it could drive us to madness as a people. So the Lumina, which is meant to be the source of life and balance, gets twisted into a resource to be exploited, leading to profound disharmony. It mirrors that common real-world struggle. The temptation to dominate nature or even sacred energy rather than live in harmony with it.
So it's not just internal to Solara then. This conflict over the Lumina seems to ripple across the various city-states as well. It spreads.
Indeed. We see this ambition isn't confined to just one ruler. King Xenilin of Eleron, for instance, he believes it's his duty to restore harmony through strength, through control. A very different approach. He even resorts to threatening Achan's family, that's Moini's father, to gain knowledge of the extractor technology.
Using coercion.
Yeah. And Valoria is explicitly named as another city-state that gravely misuses the Lumina, posing an existential threat not just to Solara's way of life, but to the very fabric of Aurelda. The sources even detail how Achan himself, Moin's father, was initially blinded by his ambition to fix it, which ironically led to the Lumina outside the city's deteriorating. And the council members of Solara, they deliberate the grave risks of sharing this extractor technology, highlighting the pervasive ambition that blinds leaders to the bigger picture, makes them grasp for control. This struggle isn't just over, like gold or land. It's a profound spiritual conflict over the very life force of the world, which elevates the stakes immensely.
This isn't just political maneuvering or resource grabs, though, is it? There seems to be a deeper, almost spiritual wound in Aurelda that's far more insidious. Talk about the Shibbolzul.
Ah, yes, the Shibbolzul. I think the true brilliance of Aurelda's antagonist lies in their origin. They're described not as inherently evil beings like demons or something, but as parasitic entities, not evil in form, but parasitic in nature, born from a fracture of meaning.
A fracture of meaning. What does that mean?
It's fascinating. This fracture occurred after the deity Mazheran's longing twisting into obsession, so it stems from a spiritual imbalance at a cosmic level. And the Shibbolzul, they don't feed on flesh or resources. They feed on dissonance, sorrow, fear, and particularly, this is key, on the forgetting the sacred memory of one's true nature.
Wow. Forgetting your true nature.
Exactly. Their primary weapon is doubt, which is just a truly chilling concept when you think about it as the main tool of antagonism. It's a brilliant narrative device, I think, because it directly connects individual psychological and spiritual states, doubt, forgetting who you are, to cosmic disaster. It's an internal foe as much as an external one.
And this pervasive doubt, this forgetting, it have literal physical repercussions for the world? That's quite a concept. That really raises the stakes.
Absolutely. The direct consequence of this fracture of meaning was the first Kalzira. This wasn't just an earthquake in the geological sense. It was a rupture in the resonance field of Aurelda itself. A spiritual quake. It nearly destroyed the Great Archive, causing these unsettling phenomena like shadows with no source and screams without mouths.
That's terrifying.
It is. And survivors attested to the Shibbolzul feeding in glee on the resulting chaos and despair. This deep, profound connection between internal states like doubt and forgetting and external reality is such a powerful metaphor. It reflects how our own unresolved issues, our collective anxieties, or societal discord can manifest in tangible, destructive ways, both personally and globally. It shifts the battlefield from external armies to the internal landscape of the soul.
And we see that ripple effect still happening very powerfully in the present narrative, don't we? It's not just ancient history.
Yes, the sources make it crystal clear this isn't over. We learn that current tremor is getting worse in Solara. A farmer's home is lost to the shaking, and the Lumina itself is described as faint, tired. The world is literally weakened. Moen, in his role as resonance keeper, senses this faint disturbance, perceiving it like a discordant note played out of harmony. He feels it. He eventually deduces that these tremors are a direct pulse connected to Jason's self-doubt, resonating through the Lumina itself.
So one person's self-doubt is causing earthquakes.
Essentially, yes, which raises this incredible question that the story dares to answer. How profoundly can an individual's internal state, their unresolved pain or self-doubt, impact an entire world? And, for LGBTQ plus readers who may have experienced societal doubt or internalized self-doubt or had parts of their identity suppressed and forgotten, the idea of a world suffering because of forgetting one's true nature can be incredibly resonant. It frames personal healing not just as self-help, but as a cosmic imperative. It's a powerful affirmation that individual journeys of self-acceptance aren't just personal, they're literally world-shaping in this narrative. 3. Journeys of the soul. Love, loss, and identity in Aurelda.
Okay, let's unpack this further then. Juan is clearly at the very heart of this story, and his personal journey seems completely entwined with Aurelda's fate. What kind of journey does he undertake? It sounds intense.
Oh, it is. Moen's journey is one of immense personal and spiritual growth, and it truly defines the narrative arc. We see him stepping into adulthood at 21, inheriting this profound legacy from his parents, Achan and Ixquil, and his unique, powerful connection to the Lumina. In what's described as his first step into freedom, he experiences a purposeful kiss with Kinich. And his mentor, Ahotan, frames this not as something forbidden, but as a lesson in understanding the weight of his gift and his responsibility.
So his relationships are part of his learning.
Exactly. This fluid approach to his sacred sexual energy is integral, not incidental, to his connection to the Lumina. It's an affirmation of his identity, integrated wholly into his destiny rather than being an obstacle or a side note. This authenticity, where a queer character's identity is fundamental to their power and purpose, is precisely why LGBTQ plus fantasy can be such a sanctuary. It reflects lived experience and inherent sacredness in ways that traditional narratives often don't, offering that deep validation we talked about.
And then we learn of a profound love in his life, followed by a devastating loss that clearly shakes him to his core. That sounds like a major turning point.
It is. A huge one. We discover his deep soul-level connection with Itzam'Yeh. Their relationship is described beautifully as destined encounters, stars aligning. It was a bond where Itzam'Yeh was Moen's comfort, his compass, his home. Really profound language. So the news of Itzam'Yeh's death doesn't just sadden Moen, the text says his world shattered. It leads to this raw, visceral pain and a deep retreat into grief.
He shuts down.
Understandably. His closest friends, Balamkin and Ixkan, try to offer solace, but his grief hangs over him unrelenting. Ahotan, his mentor, has to step in with a firm but loving hand, urging him that grief is not an excuse to abandon your duties. And he tells him, "We honor those we've lost not by retreating from the world, but by engaging with it fully." This emphasis on authentic, deeply felt love and loss, irrespective of gender, further normalizes queer relationships as center of human experience and the cosmic narrative within the story. It tells readers, especially queer readers, that their love is just as profound, just as world-shattering, just as valid as anyone else's.
So how does he begin to heal from such a profound loss? How does he move forward with his destiny after being so broken?
The healing process is deeply, deeply intertwined with his destiny and the fate of Aurelda itself. It's not a separate track. He experiences this twisted nightmare where Itzam'Yeh appears, but transformed by Moen's own guilt and grief, and actually attacks him. This forces Moen to confront his unresolved pain directly, even though it's terrifying.
Facing his demons, literally.
Kind of, yeah. And later, in a powerful vision, the luminous pulse helps him understand something crucial. That Jason, this new person, is the future. And in that vision, Itzam'Yeh whispers, "I will always be with you." It's a moment of release, of continuity. This profound revelation allows Moen to finally declare, it's time to move forward. He embraces his role not as a warrior fighting with a blade, but as one who protects and guides with wisdom. His journey from paralyzing grief to renewed purpose, facilitated by his unique connection to the Lumina and the recognition of a new sacred bond. It powerfully illustrates how fantasy can help readers process trauma, how it helps them reclaim parts of themselves, find renewed purpose in their own lives. It's a testament to the transformative role of queer fantasy in healing.
That's incredibly powerful. And who is Jason in all of this? This is where the story gets really mind-bending, connecting individual identity to cosmic events in such a direct way.
Right, Jason's introduction is a huge piece of the puzzle. He is revealed to be a shard of a keeper, essentially a reincarnation of Itzam'Yeh's soul.
A reincarnation, okay.
But here's the twist. He wasn't just reborn in Aurelda. He was born into another realm, described chillingly as a world of wires and noise. It's called a prison of forgetting, specifically created by the Shibbolzul.
Why? What was their goal?
It was a deliberate act to prevent his reunion with Ma'an, because their reunion represents a restoration of balance. And the Shibbolzul wanted to prevent that, to allow them to continue feeding on the resulting dissonance caused by Jason's separation and self-doubt. This prison of forgetting is the insidious source of the widespread instability in Aurelda. His deep self-doubt literally fractures the Lumina itself. This concept is incredibly potent, isn't it? Especially for those in the LGBTQ+ community who may have been forced to suppress their true selves or experienced a societal forgetting of their histories and identities. It provides this powerful metaphor for the internal and external battles many face in acknowledging and embracing their authentic identity. It makes their personal journey a literal act of world healing.
So his return to Aurelda isn't just a physical journey across realms, but a deeply spiritual and fated one. It's about remembering.
Precisely. It's all about remembering. Jason arrives in Aurelda feeling the unseen current of the air, sensing the ancient memory embedded in the very stones around him. He feels like he's home, but doesn't know why. And he's accompanied by Mila, this wonderful golden retriever, described as a spirit dog who followed the weaver and the resonance keeper, and she's believed to be blessed by the Saiba itself.
Spirit guide dog.
Basically, yeah. Mela acts as his guardian and his grounding presence, returning to his side each night, sensing his sacredness and guiding him back, anchoring him. And his bond with Moan is the absolute cornerstone of this entire narrative. The moment they connect, things shift. With Moan's presence, Jason feels lighter. He experiences this profound shift from struggling against everything to walking with the current rather than against it. The text affirms that they were no longer walking alone. This deep spiritual connection and the idea of coming home through another's presence, finding that resonance. It's a profound expression of love and validation, often sought by readers of LGBTQ+ fantasy. That idea of feeling seen and at home within a story is truly transformative. It echoes that real-world longing for belonging and acceptance.
Beyond Moan and Jason, what's fascinating here reading the excerpts is how complex and evolving the other relationships are. They contribute to this tapestry of healing and transformation, too. It's not just about the central couple.
That's a great point. Let's consider Vokmon, for example. He's a complicated figure. We know he was responsible for destroying the Siba and the Extractor, a significant act of sabotage rooted in his own pain and history. And he had a past strange intimacy with Moan. The text hints at it with the line, "At least you got one night."
So there's history there.
Definitely. Yet later, they shared this moment where the ache was still there, but it had softened with time. It's not ignored, but it's changed. This complexity is key. Vokmon then reveals he's now expecting a child with Ixion, explaining to Moan, knew he was versatile, just never told you. Oh. And Moan acknowledges that Vokmon is honoring your own lineage now, choosing to become the cause of healing, his actions becoming a thread being rewoven. This portrayal of a character's versatility, their complex past, and evolving relationships even after a past queer encounter, it adds to the authentic and nuanced representation found in Aurelda. It moves beyond simple binaries, reflecting the complex realities of human connection and growth, showing characters evolving past the tasks without erasing them.
That's really mature storytelling. And what about Moan's other crucial allies, his support system?
Right, because no one heals alone. Ixkan, the Queen of Solara, is not just a ruler, but Moan's closest friend, described as fierce and fluid, another instance of that inclusive language woven in. Her bond with Balamkin, the warrior with the jaguar tattoos, is one of loyalty forged in fire, depicted as unbreakable in its strength. They, along with the wise elder Ahatun and the compassionate Ixcoco, form Moan's chosen family.
Chosen family, that's such an important concept.
Hugely important, especially in many queer communities, right? They are described as bearers of truth, awakened by resonance and forged by love. Even Pyrrhus and Itzam'Yeh, the former king and queen who struggled so much with ambition and the misuse of power, are now shown as quiet counselors. They're connected by their shared history and love for their people, showing this remarkable grace in their withdrawal from power. They learn and evolve, too. This really emphasizes that no one in Aurelda faces their challenges alone. These support systems are vital. The diverse, supportive, and evolving relationships in Aurelda provide this rich tapestry where characters, including queer characters, are central, multifaceted, and deeply interconnected. It moves so far beyond the historic problem of queer characters being mere sidekicks or stereotypes. This is the kind of authentic, central queer heroism and community that readers are demanding and finding in books like this. It shows representation in depth, not just surface level. A path to rebalancing, spiritual practices, and unfinished destinies.
So how do these characters actually engage with the spiritual side of their world day to day? It sounds like it's deeply practical, integrated into their lives, not just something priests do in temples.
Yes, and this raises an important question for us as readers, right? How can spiritual practices embedded in fiction offer more than just story? Can they actually give us something? Aurelda truly shines here by integrating real-world concepts like breathwork and meditation directly into the narrative, not just as flavor, but as actual tools for transformation. For example, Hasun teaches Moan that his voice is powerful, capable of making water ripple through resonance. He emphasizes that even a tiny voice can move the world if it comes from the heart.
That's a beautiful sentiment.
It is, and it's framed as a practical lesson. Ahatun says, even when the world feels dark, we must keep singing. That's how we bring the light. This isn't just metaphorical. It's presented as a direct instruction on how to engage with the world's energy, the lumina, and affect change through focused intention and resonance. For readers, this offers not just intellectual stimulation, but potentially practical tools for self-care and empowerment woven directly into the fabric of the narrative itself. It makes the spiritual tangible.
And there's a strong emphasis on intentionality and consent, particularly in what sound like sacred experiences. That feels very modern, very important.
It really does. What's truly fascinating here is the explicit nature of consent, right, within these spiritual contexts. Before a sacred union takes place, Chimal of the Light explicitly asks Moan, do you understand the journey ahead? Do you feel safe, loved, and ready to consent to this sacred experience?
Wow, they actually ask.
They actually ask. And Moan's affirmation isn't just spoken, it's embodied in his breath, his quiet resolve. This speaks to a holistic approach to well-being where spiritual development is deeply intertwined with personal and emotional growth, and where consent is absolutely paramount, even in the most mystical and intimate of spiritual contexts. This integration of mindfulness and sacred practice, particularly around personal and intimate connections, offers readers a genuine healing pathway within the story itself. It validates the importance of bodily autonomy and emotional safety in all spheres. Even grand rituals like the atonement ceremony involve characters facing the gods as they truly were, emphasizing honesty and authenticity, no hiding.
The source material also mentions threads and sacred patterning. This sounds like a core cosmological concept. What does this mean for the universe of Aurelda? How does it all fit together?
Right, if we connect this to the bigger picture, this is where the cosmic structure truly unfolds and becomes really interesting. According to the lore, Ithanal, the god associated with harmony, wanted to guard the Lumina from distortion and ensure its continued balance. So he called forth 7 threads from his own essence, each a living principle of creation. These aren't abstract concepts, but fundamental forces governing reality. Mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, and crucially, gender.
Gender is one of the 7 fundamental principles.
Yes, explicitly named alongside things like cause and effect or vibration. These are the foundational patterns of harmony, like the cosmic operating system of Aurelda. They are seeded into new lives, new vessels like the keepers, and each time their remembering holds the key. This suggests a deeper cyclical nature to these spiritual truths. It implies that remembering these principles, including the sacredness of gender in its diverse forms, is essential for rebalancing the world. The explicit mention of gender as a foundational principle of creation, directly from a revered deity, powerfully validates Moan's fluid nature and sacred sexual energy as integral to the universe's harmony. It implicitly states that diverse expressions of gender are not anomalies or deviations, but essential sacred components of the fundamental pattern of existence itself. That offers immense validation for readers exploring their own gender and identity.
And the Book of Ithanol seems to be key to unlocking all of this, to that act of remembering.
It absolutely is. The Book of Ithanol is described as more than history. It's a guide for resonance keepers, a memory keeper. Moen's continued reading of it is a crucial part of his own journey and the world's healing process. It helps him understand the direct link between the Lumina's health and Jason's internal state, revealing that when Jason doubts himself, something fractures not just within him but in the resonance itself. The book confirms his intuition. It holds this ancient and aware knowledge, and Moen's journey with it is a profound act of remembering for himself, for Jason, and for Aurelda as a whole. This act of remembering one's true nature, of finding validation and healing through reclaiming forgotten or suppressed parts of oneself. It's such a powerful motif, and it feels particularly pertinent to the queer experience, doesn't it? Where history and identity have often been erased, distorted, or forced into hiding. Remembering becomes an act of resistance and healing.
So what does this all mean for the future of Aurelda and its characters? It sounds like there's still a lot of healing left to do, even with this understanding.
Definitely. The sources indicate the tremors have weakened, but not vanished entirely. Solara is described as broken, and the Lumina is still faint, tired. The profound challenge remains to heal not just individuals like Jason and Noan, but the very fabric of the world itself. It's a collective task. The Guardians learn they guard not by striving, by becoming. By embodying these principles of harmony and truth. They embrace their roles as bearers of truth through living it, not just fighting for it. And the story offers this profound, yet tellingly unfinished truth. Love does not conquer by force. It leaves it hanging. It leaves it hanging in the excerpt we have, yes. But the implication is powerful and clear, isn't it? It aligns perfectly with the overarching theme that love, authenticity, self-acceptance, resonance. These are the true forces of healing and rebalancing, rather than aggression or control or domination. It's a message that resonates deeply with anyone who has found strength not in combat, but in embracing their own truth, their own connections.
It truly sounds like a world poised on the brink of a complete transformation. A transformation tied intrinsically to its characters' deepest selves, their identities, their love.
Indeed. The profound understanding that seems to underpin Aurelda's future is that when Ithanol's essence walks Aurelda once more and remembers its true nature, the Seven will awaken and reunite. Moen and Jason's journey together as two become one, not just in love, but in destiny, in resonance, is clearly central to this cosmic rebalancing. They are part of that remembering. Their story serves as this powerful reminder that the past had been forgiven, the present was unfolding, and the future was remembering. And in the silence between them, something sacred had taken root. It echoes the profound idea that the personal healing and authentic journey of these queer characters is literally tied to the cosmic healing of their world. And that demonstrates exactly why these stories aren't just escapism. They are a powerful force for real-world change, shifting perceptions, building community, and supporting the well-being of LGBTQ+ people by validating their inherent worth, their power, and their sacredness.
Outro. Wow. We've journeyed through such intricate layers of the Aurelda Chronicles today, from the life-giving Lumina and those sacred ceiba trees to the devastating impact of ambition and, crucially, doubt and forgetting. We've explored the profound personal journeys of characters like Moen and Jason, their love, their loss, and the incredible paths they walk to heal themselves and their world. We've seen how deeply integrated spiritual practices and ancient prophecies are, shaping not just the narrative but the very fabric of existence in Aurelda.
Yeah, this deep dive really reveals a story where individual struggles resonate cosmically, where love can literally open gates between realms, and where remembering one's true nature, embracing your full self, is the absolute key to universal balance. It highlights so clearly how fantasy literature, particularly fantasy that embraces and centers LGBTQ+ experiences like Aurelda does, moves way beyond mere entertainment. It becomes a powerful sanctuary, a space where readers can feel truly seen, validated, and find genuine paths toward healing and authentic self-discovery, often by relating deeply to characters whose journeys mirror their own struggles and triumphs.
So what does this all mean for you, listening? We've really only scratched the surface of this rich narrative today. If this deep dive has sparked your curiosity about a world where every breath carries ancient wisdom and where personal healing is directly tied to the fate of a universe, then this is definitely a story for you. Think about it. What if finding stories that honor your full self, all parts of you, can open up new possibilities, not just in fiction, but in your own life. We've heard countless stories, anecdotes from readers who finally felt seen, who found courage, or simply felt that profound sense of coming home within the pages of inclusive fantasy. It happens. So we highly encourage you to experience the Aurelda Chronicles for yourself. See if it resonates with you. You can find more information and begin reading or listening by checking out the associated blog post on our website. We'll link it. Dive into chapter 1, whether it's the ebook, the paperback, the audiobook, and just let this incredible story wash over you. And, we'd also love to hear your own stories about finding yourself reflected in the pages of a book, about those moments of feeling seen. Join the conversation. Share your experiences. Because your story, just like Moen's, has the power to resonate and to heal.
Read or listen to the first 10 chapters for free at Aurelda.com, where you can also stream the audiobook on 11 Labs Reader, download the ebook, or order the paperback. Find the link in the description below.